Thank you for Patreon now for donating to the Patreon.
Hey guys, it's Mania, so back in our Arkhite Vanguard deck profile. So if you guys enjoyed them, like, comments, grab us, shall we? Before we get started, let's remember these decks are built for fun. They're not meant to be optimal if they're optimal, it's by pure accident, and they're just meant to be screw around with. So if you have your own optimal build that you want to use, then go ahead and go with that one, but these are my builds, so we're gonna get the start, shall we? This time we have the last deck of set 11, thank God, because I definitely didn't put this off to last minute because I completely forgot about it, and that would be Brandt, Arkhite, set 11. Honestly, Arkhite's, like, when it first came out, it was one of my favorite decks just because, like, I forgot what the play was, but it was just, like, ride and then get, like, double search off in 5 seconds, and then along with that double search, proceed to get another search on top of that with the order. Like, you would basically, on turn 1, you would deck, regardless if it's turn 1 of the game or to your turn 1 specifically, you just net out 3 cards possibly from your deck in one go. So all around, like, it was a fun strategy and just a fun opening play you could do. So let's go with the starter, shall we? And you can see what I mean, because once it starts, it just never really stops. First up, we have our starter in a moment's rest Arkhite, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 5k shield, 6k base, auto revive 1 second, draw a card, standard starting spell message, free draw if you win second. Technically, the line requires this, and technically it doesn't. To be on the exact line, the main grade 3 doesn't require anything in the line, so you could run either the Ava line or the actual Arkhite line because they both do the same exact thing for searching researches. However, I would recommend one of them because, again, the research is the important part, but I would recommend the Arkhite one because the grade 1, I believe it's the grade 1, has a specific word in its name that worst case scenario comes up, it'll actually be useful. So take that as you will, one of Arkhite in the ride deck, and if you're running this one, then you're running the grade 1 of the ride deck for Arkhite. But again, you could use either the Ava line or the Arkhite line, as long as your main grade 3 is Arkhite, it doesn't really make a difference. So one of a short rest Arkhite. Then we have our Over Trigger and Star Dragon Deity of Infinitude Eldo Breath, grades over boost, 50k shield, 5k power. Over Trigger, you may have one trigger in your deck or reveal it as a trigger. Move that card, draw a card, choose one mutes, and get something for the turn. And if you voted during draft check, activate its suggestion factor. You can double the power and critical of all former units until end of turn, increases double the power and critical of when it's activated. So all of us that have ever played against Gravidia know what this is. All of us that have played against Gravidia probably have PTSD from this, and all of us that have played against Gravidia have probably at some point held a gun to the opponent's face and be like, if you say that line one more time when you drive check, I will end it. But that aside, we all know that this over trigger is just, the second you see it, unless it's like really early game or you don't have a front row, it's game. Like, someone's gonna be forced to throw in a PG against it, and they're probably still gonna die anyways because you have at least 2 things on your board with double critical. Like, Elder Breath definitely adds pressure to the deck. It's really nice, especially when this deck can do multi-attack already, so being able to put pressure on top of that other pressure is a really great benefit as well, especially with the extra crits this deck won. So, like, there's no reason not to run Elder Breath. You can run Volnut for more multi-attack or more consistent multi-attack, and you can run Hesperia for bounce stuff back or a Barrier for bigger numbers, but I prefer Elder Breath for that unique pressure again. So one of Elder Breath. Then we have our normal triggers. First, we run 3 crits and Star Aggression Dragon Crit, so boost 50k shield, 5k power. It can be any non-effect crit. I just chose to make a Star Aggression because this is my favorite non-effect crit. Then we have 4 Patrol Robo Dekarcop, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 4k power. Critical trigger, auto rate down about a boost to put these into soul, choose remake for the turn. One of the few decks that this thing actually does something in, because there are rare occasions where this deck will run into a soul problem, and by rare, I mean it will run into a soul problem, and I barely get out of it because Divine Intervention is a thing. But there will come a day where my luck runs out and I have to actually use Patrol Robo Dekarcop for 5 seconds, and that day will come eventually, and when it does, I'm going to be glad I have him in the deck. So 7 crits in total. If you don't run into a soul problem because you're not me and you play smart, then by all means make this a normal critical trigger so you can have that little bit more power just in case you ever do call to rear guard circle. But all around though, 7 crits is nice pressure to have, especially again with the multi-attacking to push forward, and again the soul definitely comes in handy if you run into soul problems like I do, because you're spamming every card that can soul blast every 5 seconds. When we have 4 copies of Arkhite Connector, grade 0 boost, 5k shield, 4k power, continues guard circle. If your opponent's Vanguard's a grade 3 or greater to this, you can get 5k shield. Pretty solid, you know, it's a 10k guard, which is nice to have, and it's a draw trick, so it helps increase your hand. And when this deck already does a shit ton of searching, you're just going to want to deck thin more, so just get the draws to add more stuff to the hand. 4 of Arkhite Connector, it's just nice to have. So we beat the hell out of the opponent with 7 crits, and we defend with 4 draws. And then we have 4 heals and Alterate Spear Dragon, grade 0 boost, 15k shield, 5k power. Standard heal, and stuff about it, it's just a, 15k vanilla. I defensive 15k vanilla. I don't really like the effectives too much. They are 10k shields most of the time and only 25k shields in specific situations. I would rather have a consistent 15k over the fluctuating 10 to 25. If you want to run the effect heals, go ahead. I'm not going to stop you because everyone has their own opinion, but I'd personally rather have the normal heals because I like the consistent 15. Then we move on to our grade 1s. Okay, something got caught in my throat. Give me a second. We have our grade 1s, starting off with the most important grade 1 card in the deck, and it's the Research, Torrent Energy Research. Looking at this makes my eyes, like, blink back and forth. Anyways, grade 1 set orders, play, put it to your order zone. Auto, when this card is put into your order zone, reveal the top 5 cards of your deck. You have the 2 cards as monster and their card names from them. Put 1 into your hand and put the other into the drop zone. Shuffle your deck. All around pretty solid because just by being placed, regardless if it is put by a Vanguard ability or just put normally, you can just instant search the top 5 and literally get any 2 cards out of them. Everything in this deck that's a normal unit except for 1 card is a monster. So that's a pretty much guaranteed hit. And if there are triggers with monster, go ahead and run them. The only reason why I'm not running them here is because I couldn't find them. But then again, the Phantom's also been weird with triggers because I forgot which nation it was, but one of the triggers was, when I was doing the deck profiles, one of the triggers, or like the newer ones, were in the grade 1 section, and I didn't feel like going through that crap again. So, like, if there are monster triggers, run them into their respective place, obviously. But being able to search any card, whether it's a trigger or not, as long as they have monster in the card name, is pretty nice. And again, it gets 1 to order zone, it gets 1 to drop zone, which it does set up for because there are stuff that fetch stuff out of drop. And then act order zone, rest this card. You up to 1 card with monster's card name from your drop zone, put it to your order zone. Again, all around pretty solid. And as I said earlier, with the way this deck works, when you ride, I mean, with the way the original one works, it doesn't work the same way now because of certain cards that changed. But basically how it used to work is you would ditch Tech 10 or something like that. You would ride the grade 1. The grade 1 would fetch this from deck. Tech 10 would do top 5 search, fetch another copy. Then you play this down. You check the top 5 for 2 monsters. You put 1 into the order zone, and then you put the other drop. And then you use, or if you don't see another monster, that's fine. And then you use this skill to either get the Tech 10 from drop zone back into order zone, or you take the card you sent to drop zone from this thing skill to order zone. Either way, very solid card. It is not a hard one to put on that resting skill, so if you found a way to restand it or you have multiple of them, you can keep using it. And not to mention the fact too, again, it's just a free top 5 search second in its place. So all around, very solid order, does deck thinning really well. Nice 4 of. Then we have 4 copies of probably one of the best monsters / mutants. That has Detonation Mutant Bobalmine. It did get an errata to where it says monster. It is officially called Detonation Monster. The reason why it doesn't say it here is because I was too lazy to go get the errata version. I didn't feel like grabbing it. But do know its name is Detonation Monster Bobalmine, so it is searchable via this thing and anything else that requires monster. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base, auto rear guard at the end of the battle, this unit boosted. If your order's on a set ornament, put it to your soul, countercharge 1. Alright, pretty solid. Free counter charge, you notice, by going to soul, and this helps. The deck doesn't run into CB problems, but if it did, Bulba's there to fix it, and the soul problems that I kind of run into, yeah, Bulba fixes that too. So 4 of Bobalmine, all around very solid grade 1, gets soul, gets counter charges, able to be searched by this, what's all to like about it for Bobalmine. Then we have 4 copies of Reception Monster Wavyloss. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. The reason I have a soul problem, although when it's placed on Rearguard Circle, if you have a Glitter Vanguard Ava in its card name or a Vanguard Arkhite in its card name on your Vanguard Circle, Soul Blast you to draw a card. See, it can be placed by any means, during any point, during any player's turn, as long as your Vanguard is either a Glitter Ava or an Arkhite, meaning even if you find a way to put this on grade 0 and you somehow have Soul, you can do that. Or if you find a way to play it on grade 1 and you somehow have 2 Soul, you can do that. You get the point. But like, yeah, but when I mean like every chance I get, I use that ability to draw a card, I mean I use every chance I get to draw a card off that ability. My soul will be extinct within 5 seconds of me seeing this card. And then continues Rearguard Circle during turn if your order has 3 more research cards with 5k power. Okay. The ride line alone searches 2 copies of these. That's an instant 2 out of deck. The last ones are 50-50, you know. You could draw them normally. Most of the time when I play this deck, one of them ends up in my opening hand. So before the game even starts, I'm always guaranteed to get his 5k off if the game lasts long enough. The game sometimes doesn't last that long because I've deck thinned enough of my deck to where most of it is just triggers at this point. That's also why I love this deck. Again, you're going through like, well, before you went through 3 different searches before anyone even attacked. You've gone through like possibly even 4 cards of just searching outright. You've deck thinned enough for triggers. Like 4 of Wavyloss. Solid grade 1. Allows me to draw. Reason I have a soul problem. Has 5k base, and it just says more reason why this deck is good because it rarely gets to get that 5k because the deck that is enough where triggers just to shorten up quickly. And we have 4 copies of Divergence Monster Lazarek. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. I love his radiance that he gives off. And he just looks so realistic to me. I don't know why. Anyways, auto, when it's discarded from your hand or deck during your turn, if your order zone has 2 or more research cards, combats 1, call to an open rearguard circle. Oh, discarded from the hand or deck. Ride deck. This thing. Oh, look at that. Way to superior call itself. It doesn't matter if it's done during the battle phase, main phase, ride phase, etc. As long as it's during your turn. Cool. Can call itself for the simple counterboss. Not that bad. And then auto rear guard when this attacks or boost. You may have this unit with 5k power for the battle. If you do at the end of the battle, retire it. So all around pretty solid. He opens up rear guard circles so you don't have to kill them after more attacks. The second he swings, he's a 13k, which is amazing because he can attack or swing into anything. It's not a mandatory 5k, so if you don't want to get rid of him, you can. And because of that, making him a guaranteed 13k, you can swing with him without a booster, and this is always a thing with multi-attack decks, we always have to waste a booster, but you can swing with him without a booster, unless your opponent has extra power on their Vanguard, whatever they're swinging into. This is going to hit, it dies, swing with Vanguard, call something to that circle that he was just on, and boom, now you have another column with a booster on it, and with multi-attack. 4 of Lazarek. Very solid grade 1, hits numbers, granted small ones, but still allows him to hit a Vanguard, as long as it's like a normal Vanguard, not something like MLB or L higher side, or Shield Fist or something like that. And he can call himself during any point during your turn, as long as he uses a card from hand or deck at that moment. 4 of Divergence Monster. Very solid grade 1, works really well, and he has like a very realistic art to me. Then we have our 4 copies of the only other card in the deck that doesn't have Kaiju in its card name, and that is PGs of Planet Wall Dragon. Well, not the only other card, but the only card in the main deck that doesn't have that. Continue Sentinel, you have to 4 copies of Sentinel's deck on a plain guard circle. Choose one of your units, it cannot be hit on a battle. And if your hand is 2 or more cards, choose a card from your hand and discard it. Standard PG. No special battle basically means if this only one card is placed on guard circle, you don't have to discard one, which is great because that means you can guard circle you want in the early game, and when things like this exist, because by the way, that 5k works whenever, doesn't matter what grade you're on or what grade your opponent's on, or when you spam Bobalmines onto the board because you're me, or when you spam this onto the board because again, you're me, then when your opponent counterattacks you, you just yeet that PG down, drop a hand, or don't drop a hand card because it was either the only other card in your hand besides one other thing, or it was the only card in your hand, and then raise up your middle finger and then be like, ah ha ha ha, I survived, you can't hit me, suck it. All around, nice PG. You can run Violate Dragon because they have the exact same skill. You can run the one from the Aurora Battle Princess Child deck. I believe his name is called Craggy Monster Giragand. If I'm remotely right, I'm gonna laugh my ass off because I haven't read that card in years. But I remember it's Craggy something. But anyways, you could run that one because it is a monster and it does work with the consistency of the deck, though this deck doesn't have ways to add monsters to hand consistently, so, or in general, so I wouldn't suggest that, but to as you will, but I choose Planet Wall Dragon because A, it came out around, or it didn't come out at the same time, but it came out around the time of Arkhite's release, and also, I don't know, I just feel like it fits the theme of like kaiju slash monsters with PG that defends the world. Then we have our last grade one. It's the grade one of the Ride deck. 1 copy. Ignore this name. This name is the Japanese one when it first came out. This is the one that's actually the name of it. Monster Hole Searching Arkhite. Grade 1 boost, 5k shield, 8k base. Auto when it's placed by riding from a moment of rest Arkhite. Search your deck for 1 research card, reveal it, put it to hand, shuffle your deck. All around, pretty solid because just by being placed from the grade 0, you get a free search of this, which is nice. And she has monster in her card name, meaning if you Soul Blast her out, you can bounce it into Order Zone with this. And while yes, you will not want her in Order Zone compared to everything else, worst case scenario, if you do not have other targets for things, you can at least use her because she has monster in her card name. 1 of in the Ride deck, none in the main deck. Again, you can use the, the Ava line because they do the exact same thing in terms of searching, but they do not have the same consistency. Prove me wrong, 1 of here. And then move on to our grade 2s. We run 3 copies of 3-headed monster Trigant. My favorite in terms of art, my least favorite in terms of skill. Grade 2 set 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when it's put into your order zone during your turn. Choose one of your vanguards with Arkhite's cutting gets 5k this turn. All around pretty solid, you know, like you could fetch into order zone with either this thing's first effect or the second effect. And actually, wait, never mind. This card gets a thing to hand. Wait, ignore what I said earlier about the PG not being searchable, then adding it to hand, this thing literally hits it, though I did also say that it was inconsistent with it, so there's that. But, you know, all around, though, being able to go into Order Zone and increase power by 5,000 is still pretty solid, because, like, Arkhite herself doesn't get too much of a number, so being able to slowly increase her power is great, too. And he does it for free, and if you find a way just to get a bunch of them out of Order Zone, get them in a drop zone, and loop them back in the next turn, it does work out, but typically it's only going to be 1 or 2 possibly get added to Order Zone a turn, and then they just give the total of +10, but it's still a very solid card. He does it for free, so it's a warrant of a 3 of tech. And then we have our last grade 2. Yeah, this kind of takes up the spot. If you want to run Tech 10 to, get more searches and do the thing I described earlier on first grade 1 turn, then yeah, by all means replace this with Tech 10, because that's actually what I replaced Tech 10 with. And then we have our grade 2 of the ride deck. Again, I forgot to change his name, but it's Sleeping Protector Arkhite. Grade 2 instead of 5k shield, 10k base. Auto when is placed from riding from this grade 1, search deck for research card, add it to your hand. All around very solid. Again, you have to run the full line outside of the grade 3 for the search skill. So either you run the whole Avo grade 0 through 2 line to get the researches, or you run the whole Arkwright 0 through 2 line to get the researches. But I do again suggest the Arkwright line, because the grade 1 does have a monster in its card name. And while yes, it's a card you're not necessarily going to want to add to hand via the searching, it still adds that option to where, at worst case scenario, if you need to call something or you need options for hitting with monster skills, this is the one for you. So one of Sleeping Protector on the ride deck, none on the main deck, because again, no rear guard skills. Then we have our grade 3s. We run 4 copies of Volcano monster Goukaterra. Grade 3, 200% right, 13k base. Auto is placed on rear guard circle by counterblasting 1. Choose an opponent's rear guard grade equal to or less than the number of research cards your order zone and kill it. So if you have if you have a total of 2 research cards, then you kill a grade 2 or less. You have 3, kill a grade 3 or less. 1 by some unfortunate miracle of your opponent. 1 or less, you get the point. I mean, on the bright side though, worst case scenario, you're always going to be able to kill at least grade 0s. Granted, that's not going to do anything in D, because the only grade 0s that are targetable are Trick Moon, which they're going to bring it back anyways, but I guess you can kill it for that. And then Trick Star, who is untargetable, so take that as you will. And then Auto, when the rear guard, when this unit attacks, if your order's on 3 more research cards, gives 5k powerful battle. All around, again, pretty solid. Being able to increase his own power to 18k is nice. Just like Wavyloss, it doesn't go off too often, which is why I do wish that, since the deck focused on putting so many cards into your order zone, that it could have been, it just gets them for the number of research cards or monster cards in your order zone. But it is what it is. Goukaterra is still a very solid grade 3. It kills rear guards. It gets numbers. What's not to like about it? The 4 of Goukaterra. It's just a very solid grade 3. And he is my ace for the deck, I guess, what we call it. And then finally, we have our last grade 3, 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck of Monster Creator Arkwright. So just like the grade 1, you don't want to be this. You don't want this to be the target for your monster searching skills or any of your monster based skills. But if you have to, it's not the end of the world, because at least there's one other option. And Arkwright's skill, I forgot to change this again, is Auto Vanguard. When your rear guard monster's card name is placed via either from drop zone, order zone, etc., doesn't matter from where or how, or during any player's turn for that matter, put a card with the same card name as that unit from your order zone to bottom, and that unit gets attack for the turn. All around pretty solid, So if you have an Goukaterra in order zone, when you play down this one, you can use this one skill to kill something, and then you can send the Goukaterra in order zone to bottom in order to give this Goukaterra plus 10. So during your opponent's turn to 23k base, or during your turns to 23 to 28k swinger, which is pretty nice. And then Auto Vanguard. When this unit attacks, if your order zone has a research card in it, perform all the following by counterblasting 1. So you start off from the top. If you have 3 or more, if your order zone has 3 or more research cards, so to 1 rear guard with monster card name, put it to the order zone. Okay, cool. So you can just swap it for something else, and then look at top 7 afterwards if you have the thing to choose to 1 monster card from among them, call it to rear guard circle, and shuffle your deck. All around, it's pretty solid. The funny thing about this is, though, that with the way this ability works, this effect only goes off if you have 3 or more researches, so there's a chance you might not even be able to get the monster back to your order zone, except by counterblasting 1, you are always guaranteed the top 7 search to call rear guard. It's very interesting that they chose to make this the order of events, which it makes sense, because that's how you would want to see it consistently, where you're not calling over something, but it's just weird looking at how this effect will always go off, and while this effect is almost always guaranteed to go off, there's a chance that it won't. So take that as you will, though. Very solid skill, guaranteed gets multi-attack. Again, worst case scenario, it can call herself because she has monster in her card name. And again, she is able to call any monster or put any rearguard monster to the order zone. So for example, her. And she can also loop stuff back to deck, so you can always prevent yourself from decking out while you've done a shit ton of deck thing. All around Arkhite, and they send it to bottom too, which is better, so you still have a bunch of triggers on top. So all around Monster Creator Arkhite's a very solid grade 3. She gets multi-attack, she gets rear guard, she gets power. What's not to like about it? She does all for some cost with Counterblast. 3 of in the main deck, 1 of in the ride deck. And without further ado, that's it for the deck. I hope you guys enjoyed. All around, this deck is very fun to play. You get a lot of searching. The grade 1 turn is the longest turn of events I've ever seen for any deck whatsoever, but it's a very interesting turn of events that leads to a lot of different combo plays and a lot of setup. And then when you finally get to grade 3, that setup finally begins to feel like you've started playing the game, or like now it's on type of deal. So I'm going to end this one here. I hope you guys enjoyed. Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, join us, go follow Twitch, and I'll see you all in the next one. Don't forget to send up your Vanguards.